KPNW.com.
With the exception of the police officer involved.
Well, first, I would like to compliment Ohio State University. The Twitter system that they used, they activated to give out the instructions of run, hide, fight, and then within a minute of that call going out, that police officer being there and neutralizing the threat, that is the way it should be. And it really shows that Ohio State did their training. That training sunk into their brains, and they were able to execute it flawlessly. But, yeah, we heard early yesterday morning that there was an active shooter on campus. That turned out not to be true, but the response is the same, right? With an active shooter or somebody posing a threat with, whether it be a butcher knife like this is the case, a vehicle like this is the case, or even a baseball bat, the response should be the same, and that response is run, hide, fight.
Okay, when I hear that, run, hide, fight, I mean, it all makes sense, but if you're talking about, for instance, someone who is armed, the fighting aspect of it, particularly on a university, like many universities where they have a no campus carry rules, your options for fighting back are rather limited unless you're in a pointed position where you can ambush the guy.
You're exactly right. In many, many states across the country, it is not lawful to possess a firearm on a college campus, on a university campus, whether it be private or public. But there are about half a dozen states who have allowed campus carry. Now, this may start the conversation there in Ohio that perhaps they need to take a look at campus carry and perhaps allowing those with a license to carry to go ahead and allow them to lawfully possess a handgun. But there are several items around us probably right now that could potentially be used as a weapon if we are in these gun-free zones. For instance, when I go into the courthouse, of course I can't go in there with my handgun. I always take note of where the fire extinguishers are, because if there is some crazy man that comes into the courthouse, I will grab that fire extinguisher and blast it and then swing for the fences, sort of a thing. So we can look around us, and it's just being resourceful with what we've got, because anything can be used as a weapon to protect yourself.
Obviously, the police officer at that particular time and on duty acted in not only the proper manner, but also in a very timely way. In a lot of cases, though, particularly when we see these shootings on university campuses, they're not always, spot on like this particular campus officer was. Why is it that there are still so many universities that do not allow their security personnel to be armed?
Well, that's a million-dollar question, really. I think it goes along with the gun. It's such a highly politicized object now. It's got such this emotional connotation with it for whatever reason. And so I think a lot of people buy into this rhetoric that, oh, well, if guns aren't allowed on campus, then there will be no guns on campus, and therefore it will be safer. However, that's just simply not the case. I mean, these people who want to hurt others, they target these sort of soft targets that are gun-free zones. And what you're doing is, in practical application, you're leaving everybody defenseless. You're leaving people as sitting ducks. And I just can't wrap my head around why people keep kind of spouting this rhetoric of, well, if no guns, then this will be a safer area. In fact, the exact opposite is true, because let's be real. A criminal is not going to follow the law. The criminal does not care that this is a gun-free zone. They're going to go and do whatever they're set out to do, and their goal is to have a high body count. These people want to succeed, and so what we need to look at is, how do we defend ourselves from these crazy people who want to harm innocent civilians?
If you were going to suggest maybe some things that could be done to make campuses safer, other than ensure that, their police or security personnel are armed, what kind of things would they be?
Allow license holders to carry on campus. It's that simple. what we have to remember is that the majority of states, in order to be eligible to get a license to carry a handgun, you got to be 21 years old, first and foremost. And we know a lot of these college campuses, the majority of the students are under 21, so they wouldn't even be eligible for an LTC. And I hear, every time that I get into a debate on campus carry, the very first sort of response from somebody who is against it is, well, we're going to have frat daddies at kegger parties who are going to be in shootouts. That's simply not true. License holders are this group of people who are the most law-abiding citizens, and if a gun is at a frat party, it's there illegally, and no law is going to stop somebody from doing something crazy, unfortunately. But my first and foremost advice to college campuses around the nation is take a good, hard look at your prohibitions from carrying on campus and look to those states who have passed campus carry, because if you look to Texas here, we just passed it. If you look to Utah, if you look to Mississippi, there's not been one incident involving a license to carry holder on a college campus, and those colleges allow them to lawfully carry.
Michele Byington joining us on the wake-up call this morning. Not that I am suggesting that people break the law or not follow the rules, and I'm not, but, what would be the legal ramifications if, say, someone was carrying on campus and used that particular weapon to stop a situation like happened at Ohio State or any other university? What would be the legal ramifications for the individual that actually did that?
That's a fantastic question. So what would end up happening is that individual who chose to carry in the prohibited place, say they were the hero of the day and they were able to neutralize the threat, they could still be on the hook for several criminal charges. They could be charged with anything up to a felony for unlawfully carrying in one of these prohibited places. But the defense here is we default to this defense of necessity, and virtually every state has this defense of necessity codified. And what that says, it says, yeah, my client violated this law. You're absolutely right. He committed a felonious act by walking into this college building with his handgun. But jury, y'all think about what would have happened if he had not. The harm that he caused by breaking the law is much less than it would have been if he had decided to follow the law that day. So it's kind of it's a balancing act, and it would be up to a jury to determine whether they buy that argument. And I would say, I think it's a very compelling argument that would end up getting a not guilty.
All right. Michele, thanks for joining us on the Wake Up Call. We appreciate it.
Thank you.